Are you tired of spending your time and money chasing strategy after strategy only to discover what worked 10, 5, or even 2 years ago is not working now? Things shift fast in the online space, and if you're not keeping up, you're getting left behind. It's time for something different. Welcome to the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast, where every single episode will be jam-packed with proven, profitable strategies, behind-the-scenes secrets, and what's working now resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. And now, your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist, and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast. I'm your host, Patty Farmer, and I'm looking forward to sharing today's industry expert with you. And today we are going to be talking about people, right? We always know that no matter what, relationships is the name of the game. And whether you're B2B or B2C, the reality really is we're in the people business. So today what we're going to talk about is the 11 people business owners need to know. And so we have an expert at that who's going to be talking to us about it. So let me tell you a little bit about her. So Kathy Peake is the CEO and founder of the Peake Financial Group, where she specializes in working with single moms and widows. Kathy has expertise in many areas of business, as you will see. She's the proud mom of 3 adult children with 5 grandkids and 2 granddogs among them. She's a graduate of Mary Washington College in Virginia with a bachelor's in chemistry and a minor in math. And she originally taught high school chemistry before getting into business over 38 years ago. And she's going to share with us today all of that goodness and expertise as we're talking about what is it we really need to know as a business owner to be successful? And more importantly, who do we need to know? So thank you so much, Kathy, for being here with me today.
Well, it's my honor and privilege. You have a wonderful audience, and I hope that I can be of service to them today.
Always. So let's go back a little bit first, give everybody a little bit of history. So what was your aha moment in your journey, right? We all have this meandering road, right, that we get to on our journey. So what was your aha moment that led you to where you are now and how you're doing what you just always knew you were meant to do? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my aha moment was that I found myself divorced with 3 kids, and I had been a stay-at-home mom. Their dad was a psychiatrist, so I had the luxury of staying at home. And all of a sudden, I found myself like deer in headlights. Now what do I do? And I had taught high school chemistry just out of college before I had married. And so I kind of knew what that entailed, and I had decided that I didn't want to go back to teaching. It's a wonderful profession, but you really, really have to love it. And so I was looking around and trying to decide what's next. And I came across this ad that said, flexible time, make 6 figures as a manager, blah, blah, blah. And so I thought, sounds interesting. So I went in for the interview and found out it was to be trained to become a financial advisor. And so at the time, I knew nothing, not a thing. I didn't know the difference between a stock and a bond. And that was because my father was an airline pilot and he had a pension. And so around the table growing up, we really didn't talk about retirement because that was pretty much taken care of. We didn't really talk about money. And so my journey began really at that point when I started learning. And there were all these ahas, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. And why isn't this taught someplace? And along the way, as I was working with clients, I found that the ones that I enjoyed the most were single moms and divorcees, single moms, and widows. Because a widow and a divorcee are very similar in a lot of the ways that they have to deal with life. And so many of them were kind of like I was 20 years ago when I got into this business. I had been in business for small things, but I started learning that there's a lot of shame and there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of, just kind of put your fingers in your ears and go la, 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 and hope for the best. And that's not the way to go. So.
And I think a lot of times too, what happens is that women, like I know that my mom, she didn't know anything about how to take care of anything. Like she didn't even know how to do the checkbook, right? My dad took care of all the money, right? So she didn't know anything. And while my mom passed away before my dad, not to say that was a good thing. I mean, he passed away 4 months later, but I don't know what my mom would have done, right? Because she just really ran the house, took care of the kids, and she actually worked too. Mm-hmm. And worked a job too, but she just didn't know any of the things. She didn't know a thing about budgeting or how to take care of anything. And so I think she knew it too, because she really I remember her teaching me that I needed to know that, because I remember her telling me, you need to know about money. You need to know where it is, what it can do for you. And well, I don't remember learning that when I was at home. Mm-hmm. In my early years, I was in the mortgage industry. And so, of course, I learned about money really good there. But when I have conversations with people, like I'm sure you do, I don't think it is safe to assume. I don't think it is safe to assume now that even though we know more women work in the workplace now than ever have, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're knowledgeable about money, retirement. And of course, we live longer, right. And so I think that, there's a lot of different things going on there. And I don't think they actually always have the knowledge. So I love that you're focusing on those, because I really do feel like that is probably, even though you may not consider it a niche, but it is a subset of people that in actuality really need to have more knowledge about that. So I think that is absolutely.
Yeah. And in fact, I was talking to a client just the other day, and she kept saying to me, well, my husband deals with that. And I said, well, you need to know. Oh, well, I could know if I wanted to know. Like she was apologizing for the fact that, almost upset that I was suggesting that she get into her, quote, husband's business. Because I asked her, how much is his Social Security? How much is your Social Security? I was going down all of the things that I would normally do with people. And she didn't know. She didn't know. She didn't know. She didn't know how much they had in their joint account. Oh, he handles all of that. And I find that that's very, very, very common. And so when that male is no longer there, either through divorce or death, that poor woman is like stuck. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're older. It could be, I heard a story of a woman whose husband went out for a run one morning and didn't come home. He had a massive heart attack while he was running, and he handled everything. She didn't even know how to get into his computer. And everything was on the computer. And so he had all the passwords, and he had all the contacts, and he had all the whatever. And she was really stuck. And it's very,
I think that is, I think it is really, really important as somebody who has, been through a divorce. And I think too, a lot of times when people get divorced, because I know that when I got divorced, I've been happily married for, several decades. But when I did get divorced years ago, I lived in Nevada, and in Nevada, it was really clear. Everything's like, it's like no discussion about anything. Everything's 50-50. That's just
Right.
how it is, right? Which
Right.
can be a good thing. But if you have a family where you were staying home with the kids and he was, making the money. Now I knew where all the money went, but I mean, still with that. And all of a sudden, though, when we got divorced and I had children and I had the children,
Right.
well, 50% of that wasn't, so I do understand that a lot of times people don't know. And I made a decision early on when that happened that was never going to happen to me again. And so I wanted to understand how money worked. And I think that is something people don't always know. And really about wealth, people think that what is this about wealth may not be what they actually think. And because I am, a strategist, right? So every marketing, media, money early on, that was what was really important to me is what is the strategy? And I think when I was growing up, there were times we had a lot of money and then there were times we didn't have money. And, I can remember times where, if we had a flat tire, like all of a sudden my parents were figuring out what are we going to eat that week, right? And that was crazy to me. And not only that, but when I was growing up, my parents never owned a home. Like we never, they never did. And so as soon as I went out on my own, like I have always owned at least one since then. Like for me early on, I was like, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Right. And stuff. So you got to know that not always, but a lot of the things that we learn about money and a lot of the mindset we have about money comes from our family.
Absolutely.
And stuff. And that's where that happens. So I don't want to digress too much because I know everybody's probably thinking, wait a second, where's the people that we're supposed to know? So I want to make sure, but actually we are this is going to kind of loop back together. So we do. But I mean, when you're thinking about that and the shift here, really, honestly, it is somebody that you do need to know. So I am sure that we're going to get back to that. One of those people you need to know. But where I really want to make the shift though, is once you did go out, now here, you got this, position and stuff. Now you had to figure out like, how am I going to get clients? Right? So how are we going to get clients? Which of course, the obvious answer was networking, which is what everybody, believes, as I do, right? It's all about relationships. But I mean, there's a lot of different philosophies about networking as well, right? Just like there is about money, I mean, there's a lot of people that go out, they start something new, go network. And, that means here's this. And they just go to every networking group, think that whoever passes out the most business card wins, right? So we know that there's the right way to network, the wrong way to network. It's actually how you and I met in the first place.
That's right.
Come from a networking correctly background, networking correctly background. And that's how we met. And so I feel like this conversation that you and I were talking about the 11 people business owners need to know, I think is super important. Right. Because I really feel like when you're out networking, it isn't always about knowing the quantity of people as the quality of the people and the relationships that we build.
And that's really where a niche comes in, and being able to really know what lights you up as a business owner. And it's not that I don't work with other businesses or I don't have couples in my practice, but the ones that I really look for and talk about are the single moms and the widows. So when it comes to customers, really knowing your customers is one of the best ways to grow your business. Do you know who your top 10 customers are? Taking a look at, not necessarily by money, but who are your raving fans? Who are those that really appreciated your services, your product? Who are the ones that refer you, talk about you? Getting to know those customers, your top 10 customers, and involving them in some particular way in your business is definitely one of those people that you need to know.
Absolutely. So let's start on the 11. Let's start. Let's just, everybody get your pen and paper out. I'm sure they already are like, oh, she's going to tell us 11. People love lists, don't they? We just love it when somebody says they're going to tell us a number of something. I know I love that myself, right? So let's kind of start there. So and are they in order for certain reasons? So let's just tell us, I don't want anybody to believe that or not. Is it accurate or not accurate? I'm sure that there's people out there that are thinking, oh, Is this the number one person I need to know? So are they necessarily in the
No,
order?
They're not
or
in
no?
any particular order. They're
Okay.
just people that you need as a business owner that you need to think about and get to know.
Okay, so who's
Your
one?
tax and legal professionals. In this particular case, it's kind of like the whole money thing. People are either scared of it or they don't even want to talk about it. But it's really essential that you find somebody who you're comfortable with to find which is the right path to take with your tax and whatever legal types of things that come up. Make sure that you have a good relationship with a tax person or probably a banking person. One of my mentors, Sandra Yancey with eWomen Network, talks about go and get to know your banker before you need your banker. And so kind of go in with a little bit of a portfolio of who you are, what you've accomplished, and those kinds of things so that they have to make a file on you because you give that to them and then they make a file and you get to know them. And when you're in the bank, don't always drive through or don't always do everything online. Go in and say howdy to them so that they remember who you are. Because when you need that loan to expand or scale, it's really great to have a banking relationship. And certainly any time that you're looking at legal issues, you need somebody in place that knows you and your business before you actually need them.
That makes a lot of sense. And who's the second person?
Well, actually, your customers were your first, and then your tax and legal professionals. Then in order to scale your business, you need to begin to look at other support people, either starting with a virtual assistant, bringing in somebody part-time, taking a look at what are the things that only you should be doing and figuring out those things that somebody else can do just as well as you can that would take you away from doing the things that only you can do.
Or better even sometimes, because I always say, and have built my business on, I work in my brilliance and hire other people to work in theirs. So you're right. Those could be, maybe at some point they'll become employees. Maybe they're 1099, right?
Mhm.
And you're just outsourcing, like you said, whether it is somebody who does your Canva graphics, somebody who's your virtual assistant, does copywriting, whatever the case may be. So yes, those support people are very, very important. So for those of you that are writing, that was number 3.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
Number 4.
3. Number 4, business coach. Now, anybody that gets ahead in any profession, whether it be sports or business or professionally in any way, needs somebody that can see your blind spots. And so
absolutely, even coaches have coaches.
Oh, yes.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
I'm a business coach, although I specialize in marketing and media, but I am a business coach. But the reality is, if you're a coach, you at least have a coach. I always have at least 1, sometimes 2, and I've been known to have 3 if I'm working on something specific.
Right. So you need people that can see what you can't see and help, like move you in that direction. It's kind of like you can only make diamonds by rubbing up against other diamonds. And so having that diamond and paying for a coach is really important for you to be able to grow and expand and scale and all of those good things.
I love that.
The next one is something that I think gets confused with a business coach, and that is a mentor. Now, this is somebody that you can actually start looking for a mentor way early in your business. This is somebody that knows more than you do, kind of take you underneath your wing. It's not somebody that you pay. It's somebody that you follow, that you volunteer for, that you have conversations with. I've had several mentors in my life and outside of my business and inside my business. And it's really wonderful if it's somebody that understands your business, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It's just somebody that's older, wiser, doesn't necessarily have to be, quote, older in age, but they've had more experience than you do in whatever area that you're wanting to learn.
I saw this quote once and I really love it. And it said that when you're choosing a mentor, that it isn't necessarily that you have to do what they do. It's more about thinking like they think.
Right.
And I think that can be absolutely profound in some ways if you really look at that. Because I think a lot of times people think that the mentor they have to have has to be somebody who's in the same industry that they are. And that is absolutely not true. They could have some characteristics about something that you're very passionate about, that they understand that. Maybe that they just achieve something in a way that you want to achieve what you're doing in your industry. So I really think that was probably one of the best quotes about mentorship I'd ever heard. So you don't have to do what they do, think like they think.
Yeah, it could actually start with somebody that's very, very well known, that you follow them. In the age of social media, following Jeff Bezos or Oprah Winfrey,
Gary Vee or
whatever, whoever it happens to be, is very easy. There's lots of videos with YouTube and all of those kinds of things. So it may not be somebody that you know personally, but it's a place where you go to kind of exercise your brain. And as you say, get outside of who you normally could be. And they cause you to dream bigger, to think bigger. One new idea could be $1 million idea. And so getting outside of what you normally deal with is a great place to go. So the next thing on the list is a strong network. Now, your network can be within your industry, or it could be just in your particular area, or you could have, such as eWomen Network, I have a very large network of people that I know all across the globe. And so when I need something, or somebody else needs something, then I can network. And as you said earlier, networking is more about giving than it is about getting. And so having a really, and being known as somebody who's a giver and always connecting other people, not for your own personal gain, but because you know these people that are in many, many different areas of life and business, so that you can refer people to them. So
I think it's just like what you said about the banker early on. You want to have a network in place and be giving. So when the time comes that you need an ask, that you have already built those relationships, just like with the banker, that you built those relationships so that it is, much easier. I always like to say, when I think of networking, I always tell my clients, think of your business like an ATM machine, and then ask yourself, am I making more deposits or more withdrawals? I think that's really important.
Completely and totally. And that's the difference in networking. When you go out to network, it's not about finding a new client for yourself. It's getting to know people, creating relationships so that they know, like, and trust you, so that when they do, in my particular case, when they come across a widow or a newly divorced woman who is scared, they can say, listen, I know Kathy Peake. She's really, really great. She'll walk you through it. You don't have to be embarrassed. And then that's a good person to refer. And then the next thing, moving on, and this is kind of a little bit different. This is a business BFF, your business best friend. This is not necessarily somebody in the same business, but somebody who wants to collaborate, be a sounding board. It's really nice to have somebody that maybe is strong in an area that you're weak. So, it might be kind of the yin and yang kind of situation between two people, where one is maybe a left brain, one is a right brain, and they come together, again, probably not the same business, but again, you hear things differently, you see things differently, you might use things differently in them talking about their business. And it's just somebody that is a sounding board, somebody possibly that knows somebody to refer you to. But it's a great relationship to have as you build your business.
I also think too, like I have many of these, but I have 3 particular ones that I meet with every 2 weeks. Like we have calls every 2 weeks. And I think if I was going to sum it up, because I know this morning was one of those calls, it is so funny because as you build that relationship, it's kind of like you don't always have to filter. That's what I feel like for me. And so I get to like speak from my heart, and whether I'm venting or whatever the case may be. But what works really, really well, unlike a coach, like a business coach, where they'll kind of help you get unstuck too, I kind of feel like my business BFF, they kind of call me on my BS too. They're like, no, Patty, I don't think that. No. Because remember when you kind of like your best friend in your personal life, right? No, the other one's like, no, that's not true. Because remember when this, I think that you're kind of, and so when you do that, and because you get to know them and you kind of let them in, right? You let them in to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And stuff, they are able to be there for you in a way that I think really, really works. I don't know how I could have built my business without and sometimes they have changed over time that I've been in business too, right? And none of them are in the same business as me, but yet we do serve kind of the same audience, but in a different way. So they get it. And I have to tell you, some of the greatest times when I've struggled with something or somebody else has, we've said, hey, let's get on a call. Like, this is something simple to me. I'll walk you through it. And it's phenomenal. It's probably one of the greatest things you can do in your business, I think.
Yeah. And I think people forget about that. So that the next one on the list is one definitely not to forget. These are your friends and your family, because as you're building your business, don't forget to have fun, because why are you doing it at all? As the old saying says, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. You need to have fun. You need a trusted outlet of just friends, family, people that you just enjoy playing with, having fun with, and really connecting with. And so that's probably includes your kids. It could be extended family, sisters, brothers, cousins, but also very, very close friends. And, there are friends of mine that have not a clue what I do. I mean, they know I'm a financial advisor, but we don't talk business. And it's really nice to have somebody outside of, because they can be enlightening to you too.
They keep you grounded. I think they keep you grounded.
Yep. So friends and family, very important. The next one is not really a person per se, but I added it into this list because I really believe having a spiritual belief is not only grounding, but it creates an abundance mindset. So knowing that my mantra is God always provides and money flows to me easily and effortlessly. And that is a spiritual belief for me, that God wants me to be abundant. And he wants me to use the gifts that he's given me in order to serve others. And so having a spiritual belief, whatever you want to call him or her, but just creating that abundance mindset and understanding that there's more than just what you can see and touch and feel, that there is a glue that holds it all together.
I love the way you put that.
So, and then the next person that you need in building your business is you. Don't forget to take advantage of your knowledge. So, for instance, what I'm doing here today, this enlivens me. This allows me, having been a teacher, I love to teach. I love to talk to other people about what I do, information that I may have that they haven't thought about. And so take advantage of your knowledge and really continue to hone that, take courses, study, read really good books. That's one of the good things about your BFF. They may be reading a book that's like, oh, this is so juicy, you got to read this. And so take advantage of your knowledge and make sure that you're continuing to not hoard that for just your clients. Get out into the community and volunteer or give back in some particular way. So if you're counting right, there's only one left. And I saved the best for last. And that, of course, is your financial professional. Now, your financial professional can only do their job well if you're completely honest with them. And they need to know not just your assets, but they need to know what your goals are. They need to know the things that you're worried about. They need to know what you want to do when it comes to the children. Some people want to pay for college and have that money all tucked away. So when that child gets to the age of college, they don't have to worry about it. And then there's others that worked their way through college and said it was the best thing that ever happened to them. And that's where they're not saving for college for their kids. And so you need to give that information to them so that they know how to work with you. I've had both sets of people who work through college would never have their kids do that. And then I've had people who work through college and think it's the best thing in the world. But knowing what your goals are. Do you want to leave a legacy to your children and grandchildren? Do you, if that's important? I've had people say, nope, I made it all, I'm spending it all. And then I've had other people say, absolutely, I want to leave something to my grandchildren and I want to leave a legacy. So those kinds of things. Do you want to save short term? You should have short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals, because how you invest really depends on where that bucket of money comes in.
Well, I also think too that, really honestly, when you're talking to your financial advisor, it's really all about strategy. I mean, even when I was in the mortgage days, we would want to know what your strategy is going to be. Sometimes when people buy a house, it's like, oh, I'm buying this house and we're keeping this house and, we're going to pay it off and that's where we're going to live and that's where we're going to retire. Some people come in and they're like, no, this is our starter home and this is what our goal is. And knowing which it is, and there's a plethora of things in between that, makes it easier for me to know what the best strategies were. So I didn't put you into a loan that was not the best loan for you for what your exit strategy was. So knowing that and then flipping that into business, really, I feel like you just said the magic word that everybody likes to talk about, which is legacy. But you know what? Some people have a business and they're going to leave that business to their children or whatever the case may be. Like somebody else is going to step in their shoes.
Right.
They could have a business where for them, their goal and their plan is that when they want to retire, they want to be able to sell their business.
Right.
And then there are people that, guess what? If something happens to you, you are your business. And the day you go, so does it. Right. So obviously you have to make different financial decisions, whatever those are. And then, of course, that's not even talking about all the family things. Right. So there's a lot of things. So I 100% agree with you.
Right.
That would definitely be somebody that you absolutely want to make sure that that's the conversation that you have. That you get
especially as a business owner, really working with your financial professional to strategize on that. Because as you say, not everybody can leave their business to a family member. Not everybody at retirement can sell their practice. Fewer and fewer practices are, whether it be medical or dental or financial or legal, can sell their practice. So you have to really look at what are you doing in addition to. And as you're growing your business, you also, in order to retain employees, you want to look at different ways to do that. And a 401k is not the way to go for a very small, growing, scaling kind of business. And there's many, many different ways to do that. There's salary deducted IRAs, there's simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of choices as you're going along, but you definitely need to include your financial advisor in that conversation about what is your legacy, what is going to be the next step for you in, say retirement.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So now that we've gone through the 11 people that business owners need to know, here are some questions that are going to come up. So where do you find them? Right? It's all like a puzzle piece, right? So
Right.
We could say it in a simple word, network, right? But that's not really the end all be all answer, right? So thinking back on those 11 people that we just talked about, it's not like get this little checklist out and tomorrow I'm going to go join a networking group or whatever, and I'm just going to be able to find them, because that's actually really not the answer, or not an accurate answer. And it does take time. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit, because I'm sure that some of the people who just heard your 11 are thinking to themselves, well, that's really, really great. Now I know what to do, but where do I go to find them? So do you have a couple tips on that?
Well, certainly it depends on where you are in your business, but there's some really great groups and organizations probably within your town or city that you could join and get to know people, certainly networking in that way. And as you're looking for a business coach, really look to see what it is that you're looking to have a business coach for, if that makes sense.
No, it is, because I think a lot of times that's where the pieces all need to fit, right?
Right.
Because I think that when you're looking at that, you're like, okay, that was a great list too. So you did a great job, Kathy. So thank you so much for sharing those with us. But I think some of them were even ones that people really hadn't thought about. So when you're thinking about the ones like the best, the bestie, your business bestie or a mentor, right? So I think when people think of somebody like hiring an accountant or hiring, a bookkeeper or a banker, a lot of those, you can get referrals by people that you do network with or and trust,
Right.
Whether they're in a networking group with you or not, but people that you already have a know, like, trust factor with, asking for, suggestions or referrals to people. That's a simple strategy. Doesn't mean it's always going to work right away or the first one's going to be perfect or whatever. But some of the other ones, like a mentor and, a business bestie, like those things take time. So, it's not like you can just sit down and say, oh, I'm going to get on Facebook tomorrow. Can somebody please introduce me to a business, right? So you have to do a little bit of work. But a lot of it is also like, what is it that you want? What is the time commitment you're willing to make? So there's a lot of different things. But I think that also what I think this brought up for me when you and I had this conversation, and I said, oh, well, when I asked you to, come on my podcast to talk about this, I also really feel like I love that the number was 11. And I loved it because, well, most of all, because I teach this whole thing about the table of 12. And so I love that it was 11, because I really feel like what I want to say is there's also another seat that maybe we didn't think about, like that, is specific for them, right? That is specific for them, that, hopefully when they listen to the 11, they're like, oh, wow, that's really good. And you know what? Like, when people tell you something and then you're like, oh, and right. So there's going to be that other one, right? There's going to be that other one. And so really, honestly, when you're building your business, just with the 11 that you said, the reality really is that if you do choose to decide to want to be a resource or to be the go-to person, right? And that is something that you want to do. It's certainly something you've done. It's definitely something I've done. It's very, very important to me. And it is how we have built our business, right?
Yeah.
Should you choose to do that, these are also the people who will lead you to the other people as well.
Absolutely.
And lead you to business too.
Right. And as you say, it's not a checklist to go out tomorrow, check off, okay, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this. it's just a list of people to be thinking about and strategize, add into your strategy for growing your business. And, just think about it. For some people, having a business banker, well, maybe they think, they're brand new in business. That's not something they need like tomorrow. So it may be something that as they're building their business, they're developing their portfolio and getting to know people and maybe winning awards or being number one in their office or whatever it happens to be, whatever your background is, putting all of those things together and gathering them. So maybe 6 months, 9 months, a year down the road, that's when you do that business banker. For some people in the beginning, it may not behoove them to have a tax professional right in the very, very beginning. So it really depends on where you are in your business. And yeah, I think that referrals come, you run into people as you're looking for things. I think it's that reticular.
I think it's being aware. I think it's like being aware, because I feel like when we have a business, and pretty much everybody who's listening to this podcast either has a business, they're an entrepreneur of some sort. But I think that there's foundational basics, right? There's the foundational stuff that we have that is important, right? And I kind of think an accountant, bookkeeper, tax person, financial advisor, some of those are like pretty foundational, really. Right. And then we have growth, right? Then there's things that you're doing that are business growth. Obviously, business coach would be important, right? Your business growth, right? And now you're kind of wanting to scale, right? Now you're looking at scaling your business. And now some of those other ones, right? Oh, well, now I do need to have this. And having a business bestie is really a great idea. Oh, maybe I really do need to have maybe a different kind of business coach, or maybe I need to be outsourcing now. And then there's sustaining, right? And then you get to the point where now I want to sustain that business, right? What does that look like? So there's always going to be different points and different places you're going to be in your business. So maybe you don't need all 11 of those day one. Maybe they'll come into place, but I think it is important to be thinking about them. And not only that, but this is all I can say for me is any time in my life and business that I have thought about, I think I should think about doing this or that, they just kind of show up once I kind of put it out there, right? It's kind of like when you look at buying this kind of car and then you see it everywhere on the road, right? I think that that's how our brain works. So I feel like whatever I seem to be looking for kind of manifests itself for me. And I didn't really understand or use that word early on, but now I truly do understand that. So becoming aware of these people, I'm going to tell you that if you start putting forth an effort to find them, some of the right people are going to show up for you. Absolutely. When you least expect that. So I think that is completely very, very important. So Kathy, thank you so much for sharing, the knowledge that you did, actually like taking the time to break it down for us. Because I think a lot of times people don't realize, and having it broken down really will help them. And so I know they're going to want to connect with you. So how can they connect with you?
Well, my website is www.T as in Tom, P as in Paul, financial.net. Don't forget the .net. So it's tpfinancial.net. Stands for The Peak Financial.net. And so that's one place that they can go find out a little bit more about me. It's got lots of resources there, lots of really great information. You can also find me on Facebook at The Peak Financial Group. And I'm also on LinkedIn. And I think LinkedIn, I'm Kathy Peake, because my professional name is Kathleen, and then I go by Kathy Peake.
Perfect. Okay, so there you go, everybody. Very, very easy to find her. And I suggest that you do. I think that is something that will behoove you and your business. And not only that, but she's one of the best networkers I know. I mean, she is a great go-to resource. She has built her business and her career in manifesting all the right people. So, whether you're looking for a financial advisor or anyone else, she probably knows them and can introduce you to them. So I would say she would definitely be a great connection for you. So
thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. So I also wanted, while we're thanking, right, I also want to thank our sponsor. And the Marketing Media Money podcast and magazine is sponsored by the Exacta Corporation, founder of the Corporate Organizer, more than a CRM, and award-winning Family Organizer Plus. One busy life, two easy apps, and you can learn more at exactacorp.com. And then I have a question for you. Would you like a simple answer to the question, where should I focus my time and energy to attract highly qualified ideal clients? Then I would love to invite you to take the Marketing Media Money Assessment, and in 3 minutes or less, you'll know exactly where you're excelling, where you could make a few changes, and what steps to take to achieve massive results. So go to M3, stands for Marketing Media Money, M3bizquiz.com. Again, that's M3bizquiz.com. So again, thank you so much for joining us on the Marketing Media Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Make sure you connect to Kathy. We will see you again next week. Thank you so much for being here with us. Have a phenomenal week.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at www.marketingmediamoney.com. I promise your business will thank you.